OG3 just got called out for allegedly abandoning Ben 10 when he was fighting for his life. What OG3 said in response had everyone online looking at him sideways. There was no denial, no valid defense, just an odd attempt at explanation. His response? Being a leader is tough. Your guy's in the hospital fighting for his life, getting revived, and you come back with leadership quotes like you're running a Fortune 500 company. Nah, that's not gonna cut it. NBC. YoungBoy saw OG3's response and immediately took action. No hesitation, no filters. He called OG3 out by name for running away when Ben 10 was fighting for his life. And the internet exploded. People were waiting for this moment. This isn't just about one incident. It's about loyalty and who's truly built for the life they say they live. Ben 10 was close to losing everything, and the person who was supposed to have his back was nowhere to be found. Let me break this down for you step by step, because the media won't tell you the full story. First, let's talk about Ben 10. Ben 10 isn't just another random person in YoungBoy's camp. He's been with him since the very beginning. He's a real one from Baton Rouge, not just some guy who shows up in music videos. He's been through the struggle, the legal battles, and everything else that comes with being in YoungBoy's circle. His loyalty to YoungBoy is proven, not spoken. That loyalty matters because when something happens to someone like Ben 10, the people around him are expected to hold that same energy. That's the code. Now, OG3, the so-called OG figure in YoungBoy's camp, is supposed to be the one who sets the standard. He's supposed to be the one younger members look up to. The OG tag isn't just a title, it's supposed to mean responsibility and leadership. OG3 has worn that title for a while, but actions speak louder than words. When Ben 10 was fighting for his life, OG3 didn't show up. And of course, there's NBA YoungBoy, the real one. YoungBoy doesn't need much of an introduction. From Baton Rouge, he's built an empire based on realness. He's been through everything, from murder charges to federal weapons charges, and he's always kept it real. He doesn't fake loyalty, he lives it. So, when he speaks out, it's not just for clout. It's because something crossed the line. Now, let's get into what actually happened. Ben 10 was in a life or death situation, in the hospital, getting revived. This isn't some small incident that the blogs blew out of proportion. This was life or death, and OG3 was nowhere to be found. The street started buzzing, asking, where was OG3 when Ben 10 needed him? The word on the street was that OG3 was around but decided to dip out instead of holding it down. Not a tactical retreat, just a straight up run. That's what the streets were saying, and that's what stuck. Ben 10 was getting revived, and OG3 was nowhere to be seen. Let that sink in for a second. Your man is on a table fighting for his life, and you're nowhere to be found. That's not just a betrayal of the street code, that's a betrayal of loyalty, period. When the word got out, the response was swift and unforgiving. You can't escape something like that, not with a simple social media post or a vague statement. The streets know what's real and what's fake, and OG3 showed his true colors. Here's where things get wild. Most people, especially someone in YoungBoy's position, might keep things low-key. But YoungBoy didn't do that. He went straight for the neck. He called OG3 out publicly, no sugarcoating. He made it clear, you left Ben 10 to die. There's no room for misinterpretation here. YoungBoy wasn't vague, and that made the situation bigger. Why does this matter? Well, YoungBoy doesn't speak lightly. When he calls someone out, it's because he has real reasons. He doesn't just make accusations without backing them up. He doesn't guess. He speaks on what he knows. And calling out OG3 publicly, that's a statement. In YoungBoy's world, this isn't just about one person. This is about the integrity of his whole camp. When someone fails the loyalty test, it has to be called out. That's the standard, and YoungBoy is setting it. Now let's talk about OG3's response, because this is where everything takes a turn. He had a few options in how he could have handled this. The first option was simple. Say nothing. Stay off social media, let the storm pass, and deal with the situation privately. Not the most courageous move, but at least it would have spared him some public embarrassment. The second option was to come with receipts. offer proof, give a detailed account of what happened, and present evidence that tells a different story. But OG3 didn't do either of those. Instead, OG3 chose the worst possible option. He responded with a vague philosophical deflection. Being a leader is not easy. That was his answer. No specifics, no details about what happened, no defense against the accusation that he ran away when Ben 10 needed him. Just a generic statement about leadership, as if that could explain abandoning a friend in their most vulnerable moment. This wasn't just a weak defense. It was a complete failure to address the real issue. YoungBoy accused him of running away, and OG3 didn't even deny it. He didn't say, "I was there, I did what I could." He didn't say anything to counter the claim. Instead, he hid behind a motivational quote, which only made the situation worse. It made it seem like OG3 knew he had failed and was trying to cover it up with a feel-good statement. The internet erupted after that. People from all corners of hip-hop culture saw right through it. They knew what he was doing. It wasn't an apology or a defense, it was a deflection, a way to avoid taking responsibility. And the streets, they saw it for exactly what it was, guilt. When you can't defend your actions with specifics and you try to shift the conversation to something abstract, that's a sign that you're hiding something. The response was so bad that it became a meme. The streets already knew what they needed to know. Let's zoom out for a second. This is more than just OG3 versus YoungBoy and Ben 10. It's part of a bigger picture. Over the years, YoungBoy has had his share of personal struggles, legal battles, and losses. But through it all, one thing has remained constant: his authenticity. His fans stay loyal because they know YoungBoy keeps it real. He doesn't hide behind a mask. He doesn't fake loyalty. When he calls out someone, he does it because they crossed the line. For OG3, this situation is a turning point. His response, or lack thereof, shows everyone exactly who he is under pressure. Before this, he wore the OG title, which signifies wisdom, leadership, and responsibility. But when it mattered most, when loyalty and integrity were on the line, OG3 failed. And that's not just a failure in the eyes of the streets, it's a failure of the whole system he represented. The OG label is supposed to come with responsibility. You don't just get to claim the title. You have to prove it with your actions. And OG3 didn't prove it. He let his title go to his head instead of showing up when it mattered. YoungBoy knows that. That's why he called him out so publicly. It wasn't just about one mistake. It was about exposing OG3's lack of integrity, which had been hidden behind a title. Now everyone can see it. Everyone can see who he really is when the pressure is on. For Ben 10, the recovery process is far from over. While he's physically healing from what happened, there's also the psychological side to deal with. The knowledge that the person who was supposed to have his back wasn't there when he needed them most, that's a different kind of burden. But YoungBoy's actions are helping with that. By calling out OG3 publicly, YoungBoy is sending a clear message to Ben 10. You're not forgotten. What happened to you matters, and the person who failed you won't get away with it. That's loyalty in action. YoungBoy's loyalty to Ben 10 goes beyond just being there for him when the cameras are rolling. It's about publicly holding people accountable when they fail. And that's something OG3 never understood. When you fail your people, you lose your title and you lose your credibility. You can't just claim to be real, you have to live it. And OG3's response showed everyone that he's just playing the part. He's not the leader he claims to be. This whole situation isn't just about OG3's fall from grace. It's about the bigger lesson that the streets already know but need to be reminded of. Loyalty is everything. You can't fake it. When it counts, when it's real, that's when your loyalty is put to the test. And OG3 failed that test. So, where does all of this leave OG3? His OG title is gone. His reputation is tarnished. No matter what he says from here on out, he can't take back that response. The streets have already decided what they think of him. And what about YoungBoy? He keeps moving forward because that's what he does. He keeps it real and he keeps pushing. For Ben 10, this situation has been a test, but it's also a reaffirmation of what loyalty looks like. In the end, OG3's failure is a wake-up call to everyone in the circle. If you can't pass the loyalty test when it counts, then everything you've said before doesn't matter. The streets will remember and they will hold you accountable. YoungBoy's move was more than just a confrontation with OG3. It was a lesson to everyone around him and to everyone watching that loyalty isn't negotiable. You either have it or you don't. And once the mask slips, there's no going back. Let me know what you think. Do you think OG3 can come back from this? Is there anything he could say to repair his reputation? Should YoungBoy have kept this situation private, or was it necessary to go public? Drop your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more. This conversation is just getting started. We keep it real every time, no filters, just facts.